TV is bad for your eyes. That's something my mama used to say, and whether or not that's actually true, there's no question that it's bad for your waistline. We all know this because we know that when we're watching TV, we're just kind of sitting there. And we're quite often also eating a meal or snacking. But what we're watching is also priming us to quietly get fatter and fatter, as we'll see in this video. In a very compelling book called Mindless Eating, television is described as a triple eating threat. This is because television leads us to eat, distracts us from how much we're eating, and causes us to eat for too long, sometimes the duration of an entire show. But what this video is about is one particular thing that leads us to eat, because studies show that this may be the most sinister element of all. Now, since the first TV commercial was broadcast months before the United States entered World War II, I'm going to assume that most of us grew up with them. I'm also going to assume that most of us think that we're too smart to be influenced by them. But this, generally speaking, is a delusion. Not only do commercials influence us, but the extra number of calories we consume because of them is kind of, well, scary. Let's start with the children, because we were all children once, and we all grew up with food companies wanting to sear their brand names into our brains. A 2009 study aimed to determine just what kind of influence all these pesky food commercials were having on children. If you've ever watched a child-oriented TV show with your own kids, you know which ads I mean. Those for sugared cereals, sugary drinks, cookies, and so on. So, researchers divided 118 children between the ages of 7 and 11 into two equal groups. Both groups were to be shown a cartoon with commercial interruptions, but one group was going to be exposed to non-food advertisements only, while the other group was going to be shown 4 commercials for food products. And by food products, I mean the ones typically marketed to kids, like high-sugar cereals, fruit roll-ups, and potato chips. Before this test screening, though, the kids were given a little treat, a large bowl of cheddar cheese goldfish crackers to snack on while viewing. Each child was tested alone, so their behavior wasn't being influenced by other children. After each child left the screening room, their bowls of remaining crackers were taken and weighed. To nobody's surprise, it was found that the kids who viewed the show with the food commercials ended up eating more of the crackers. But the actual amount was a surprise. These kids ate 45% more than the group that hadn't seen food commercials. Now, you may be thinking that these are children who haven't yet learned how to fend off an advertisement like us adults. The researchers thought that too, so they did a separate study with college-aged adults. And while it could be argued that college-aged adults are just barely adults, it could also be argued that they're generally more cynical about advertisements than people in both younger and older age groups. Anyway, this study involved 98 college-aged adults separated into 3 groups. Each group was going to watch a television show, again interrupted with commercial breaks. One group was going to see ads for junk foods like fast food restaurants, candy bars, and soda. The second group was going to see ads for more healthy foods like granola and oatmeal. The third group was not going to see any food ads at all. None of the groups were given anything to snack on while watching, but were asked to participate in a taste test after the show was over. It's probably no surprise to learn that the group that saw the junk food ads ate the most, and for the longest time. But it may be surprising to learn that the group that saw the healthier food ads actually ate the least, and for the least amount of time. In the taste test, those who saw junk food ads ate for about 13 minutes on average, while those who saw the healthier food ads ate for less than 9. The group exposed to no food ads at all fell in the middle, for both quantity consumed and duration. Now, how could this be? And what does it mean? Well, there are a few theories on the how question. One is that because junk food companies know they can't sell their products based on nutritional benefits, they sell them on images of fun, excitement, and a cool factor. And we are all simply more receptive to these messages than messages about nutritional benefits, even as adults. Another theory offered by Dr. Deborah Cohen in the book A Big Fat Crisis is that foods high in sugar and fat are more effective in whetting our appetite than healthy foods. She further theorizes that we may well be hardwired to favor foods that provide instant energy and concentrated calories. So, we would clearly eat less while watching TV if most food ads were for healthier foods. But reality is exactly the opposite. In a study done in 2004, it was discovered that of ads shown to children between the ages of 2 and 11 for that year, 16 were for vegetables and legumes, and 0 were for fresh fruit. Meanwhile, 468 were for candy, 836 were for sugary cereals, and 1,367 were for restaurants and fast food. And here's the most important point, and the reason why none of us are immune from this influence, even if we think we are. Food advertisements do not necessarily make us run out to purchase that specific food. During the children's study I mentioned earlier, there were no ads for goldfish crackers shown to any of the children. They were simply eating more of what was conveniently available to them in response to seeing food ads on the screen. So what's the answer? Of course, there are ways to reduce your exposure to commercials when watching TV. But if you take nothing else from this video except awareness of what's really happening during this leisurely activity, that may be enough to save you from another unpleasant surprise the next time you step on a scale.